The cold, calculated precision of the alien fleet shattered like glass as the last human ship emerged from hyperspace. This appearance was impossible, unexplainable. The aliens had accounted for every variable, every known technology in the galaxy. But they hadn't accounted for humanity's unbreakable will to survive. The stars blinked in and out of existence in the vast void of space, surrounded by the flickering remnants of a once great human empire. The Carthuan Dominion had crushed every human stronghold in their relentless march across the galaxy, reducing planets to ash, entire civilizations to distant memories. Yet, as the last embers of humanity dimmed, something unexpected arose. Commander Aiden Riggs stared at the holographic projection of the approaching alien fleet. The Carthuan, with their spindly, insect-like ships, moved in perfect formation, ruthless, efficient, terrifying. The Earth Defense Force, EDF, had been decimated. Riggs' ship, the Resolute, was the last functional vessel in the sector. The Carthuan had anticipated humanity's every move, using superior technology and tactics. The outnumbered humans stood no chance in a conventional fight. But Riggs was no conventional commander. Status report, Riggs barked, his voice taut with the tension of impending doom. Shields at 40%, hull integrity failing on decks 5 through 9, Lieutenant Amara Stone replied, her fingers flying across the console. We're running out of time, Commander. Riggs nodded grimly, his jaw clenched. The Carthuan were merciless in their pursuit, and they had crushed every attempt humanity made to strike back. This was supposed to be their last stand, a final push to protect the remnants of the human race. Yet even now, on the brink of extinction, something burned inside him. A desperate ember of hope that refused to die. Activate Project Phoenix, Riggs said softly, but his words carried the weight of a seismic shift. Stone's eyes widened. But Commander, do it. We're out of options. The galaxy was vast, filled with thousands of civilizations, but only one had ever dared to resist the Carthuan Dominion. Humanity. They had been seen as primitive, backward, and yet, for some reason, unpredictable. Humanity's fight for survival was nothing more than a statistical anomaly to the Carthuan leaders, something that defied logic but posed no real threat, until now. Project Phoenix was humanity's last gamble, a plan born out of desperation when all other hopes had been extinguished. It wasn't a superweapon or a technological marvel. It was something far more dangerous, human ingenuity. Commander Riggs had seen too many battles, too much death. His face was lined with the exhaustion of a man who had carried the weight of humanity's survival on his shoulders for far too long. He was not a hero by choice, but by necessity. Every command, every order came at a cost. He had sacrificed countless lives for the greater good, but it had all led him to this moment, humanity's final stand. A man of few words, Riggs wasn't known for grand speeches. He let his actions speak for him. And right now, his actions were about to change the course of history. Amara Stone, his second-in-command, had been by his side through every defeat and every retreat. Where Riggs was cold and calculating, Stone was fiery and determined, her spirit unbreakable even when everything else seemed lost. Together, they represented the duality of humanity's survival instincts, cunning and heart. The Carthuan fleet closed in, their ships moving like a swarm of locusts ready to devour what little remained of human civilization. Riggs could see them on the tactical display. Thousands of ships, each equipped with weapons powerful enough to annihilate planets. Humanity had been outmatched from the beginning, but what the Carthuan didn't understand was that humans were never bound by the limits of logic. All systems ready for Project Phoenix, Stone confirmed, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Riggs glanced at her, and for the first time in months, allowed a small smile to tug at the corner of his lips. They think they know us, he said quietly, but they have no idea. The Resolute lurched forward, its engines flaring as it shot toward the heart of the Carthuan fleet. The alien ships immediately responded, converging on the lone human vessel like predators closing in on their prey. But Riggs wasn't leading them to slaughter. He was leading them into the unknown. The Resolute shuddered violently as the first wave of alien fire hit its shields. Explosions rocked the ship, sending crew members sprawling. Alarms blared, warning of imminent destruction. Riggs felt the weight of failure pressing down on him. They were so close, and yet, as he watched the shields drop to critical levels, it seemed like all hope was lost. "We can't take another hit like that," Stone shouted over the deafening noise. Riggs' mind raced. He had bet everything on Project Phoenix. But now, as the alien fleet unleashed its fury, the ship's systems were failing one by one. The odds had never been in their favor, but this was worse than he had anticipated. The Carthuan had adapted faster than expected. "Brace for impact!" Riggs yelled, gripping the edge of his console as the final wave of alien fire bore down on them. The shields flickered, then died. The hull began to buckle. For a moment, everything went still. Time seemed to freeze, and in that breathless second, Riggs felt the crushing weight of defeat. They had come so far, fought so hard, only to be annihilated at the finish line. But then, in the darkest moment, something extraordinary happened. Just as the Carthuan fleet prepared to deliver the killing blow, the Resolute disappeared. It didn't explode, didn't vanish in a blaze of light. It simply blinked out of existence. The Carthuan, known for their mastery of interstellar warfare, had never seen anything like it. Their sensors scrambled to make sense of the anomaly. And in that brief moment of confusion, Riggs made his move. Project Phoenix wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was the culmination of everything that made humans dangerous to the Carthuan. For millennia, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as inferior by the more advanced races of the galaxy. But what the Carthuan had failed to understand was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology. It was their unpredictability. The Resolute had utilized a new kind of slipstream technology, not just for faster-than-light travel, but for tactical displacement. In layman's terms, the ship could appear anywhere at any time without warning. And now, Riggs had positioned his ship right behind the Carthuan command vessel. "Fire all weapons," Riggs ordered, his voice calm. The Carthuan command ship, a massive leviathan that dwarfed the human vessel, didn't stand a chance. In an instant, the Resolute unleashed a barrage of firepower that tore through the alien ship's hull. Explosions rippled across the Carthuan flagship as its systems failed one by one. The rest of the alien fleet, still trying to make sense of the situation, hesitated. In that hesitation, Riggs struck again, teleporting the Resolute to another position and raining destruction down on the Carthuan forces. It was chaos. The Carthuan had never encountered a foe like this, a foe that defied every rule of warfare they had known. But it wasn't just the ship. Riggs and his crew fought with the desperation of a species on the edge of extinction, and that desperation had become their most potent weapon. "Commander, they're retreating," Stone exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. Riggs watched as the Carthuan fleet began to pull back, their perfect formation shattered. For the first time in centuries, the Carthuan had been outmaneuvered, outwitted, and they were afraid. But Riggs wasn't finished yet. "Follow them," he ordered. "We're not letting them get away." As the Carthuan fled, Riggs could feel the tide of history turning. Humanity, battered and broken, had been pushed to the brink of extinction. But in their darkest hour, they had found something no other species in the galaxy possessed: the ability to adapt, to fight back with everything they had, even when the odds were stacked against them. "We're going to win this war," Riggs said, more to himself than to anyone else. Stone looked at him, her expression a mix of awe and relief. "How did you know this would work?" she asked. Riggs smiled faintly. "I didn't. But that's the thing about humans. We don't give up. We don't stop fighting. Not ever." As the Resolute chased down the retreating Carthuan ships, the once mighty alien empire began to crumble. Humanity had not only survived, they had triumphed. And in doing so, they had proven something to the galaxy. Humans were built for chaos, and in chaos they thrived. The remnants of the Carthuan fleet scattered across the galaxy like leaves in a storm, no longer the unstoppable force that had once brought entire star systems to their knees. The power balance of the universe had shifted, and humanity was no longer the hunted. The galaxy would never be the same again. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Aiden Riggs stood tall, watching the tactical readouts as the last of the Carthuan ships fled beyond sensor range. Silence filled the control room, broken only by the occasional crackle of damaged systems attempting to recover from the intense battle. "We did it," Stone whispered, still trying to grasp the enormity of what they had accomplished. "I can't believe it. We actually did it." Riggs turned to face his crew, the small team of survivors who had stood by him through every defeat, every retreat. Their faces were a mix of exhaustion, disbelief, and a cautious sense of victory. They were battered, bruised, and barely hanging on, but they were alive. More importantly, they had done what no one believed was possible. They had defeated the Carthuan. "I didn't think we'd see this day," Lieutenant Harris muttered from his station, his eyes wide as he scanned the readouts for any signs of the enemy regrouping. "We're still standing. We're still here." Riggs took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment sink in. It was a strange feeling, victory. For so long, all they had known was survival, scraping by one battle at a time, always on the edge of extinction. Now they had struck back, and for the first time, humanity had the upper hand. "We're still here," Riggs echoed quietly, his voice carrying the heavy burden of leadership. "But this isn't the end. The Carthuan are on the run, but they're not finished. We've dealt them a blow, but we need to be ready for what comes next." Stone stepped forward, her face a mixture of exhaustion and determination. "So what do we do now, Commander?" Riggs turned to the viewport, staring out at the stars that stretched endlessly before them. Somewhere out there, the Carthuan were regrouping, licking their wounds, and preparing for whatever came next. They wouldn't stay scattered forever. They would return, and when they did, humanity needed to be ready. "We rebuild," Riggs said finally, his voice steady and resolute. "We take this victory and we use it. We find the survivors, bring the remaining human colonies together. We won't just survive this time. We'll fight. We'll take back what's ours." Stone nodded, her expression hardening with resolve. "And when the Carthuan come back?" Riggs turned to her, his eyes cold and determined. "They'll find a galaxy that no longer fears them. They'll find a humanity that's stronger than ever. And when they come, we'll be waiting." Across the galaxy, the news of humanity's victory spread like wildfire. On distant planets where humans had been hiding in the shadows, scraping together what little resources they had left, a new hope began to stir. For so long, they had been living under the constant threat of annihilation, but now they had a reason to believe that they could do more than just survive. Rebel groups that had once operated in secret began to rise up, organizing under the banner of the Earth Defense Force. Ships that had been scavenged and patched together in hidden shipyards were now being retrofitted with the same technology that Riggs had used to defeat the Carthuan. Humanity, scattered and broken, was becoming something more, a force to be reckoned with. On one such hidden colony, deep in the asteroid belt of a forgotten star system, a young engineer named Dara Rell was among the first to hear the news. Her fingers, stained with the grime of working on broken machinery, paused as she listened to the transmission that had been sent across the rebel channels. "They won," she whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. "We've won." Her fellow engineers gathered around, their faces lighting up with the first glimmers of hope they had seen in years. For so long, they had toiled in the darkness, building ships and weapons that they never believed would be enough to turn the tide. But now that tide had shifted. "Dara, did you hear that?" one of her colleagues asked, his voice breathless with excitement. "Commander Riggs. He defeated the Carthuan fleet." Dara nodded, her mind racing. "It's not over yet. But this changes everything." The engineer's hands shook as she picked up her tools once again, her heart surging with newfound purpose. She wasn't just fixing old ships anymore. She was building the future. As humanity rose from the ashes of their near extinction, new alliances began to form. Alien races who had once turned a blind eye to humanity's plight now watched with interest, some with admiration, others with fear. The Carthuan had dominated the galaxy for centuries, and the idea that humans, primitive, chaotic, and reckless humans, could challenge them sent ripples through the galactic community. Among these alien races was the Zelnari Confederation, a species known for their cold, analytical nature. They had remained neutral throughout the Carthuan expansion, believing that any direct confrontation would only result in unnecessary losses. But now, with humanity's unexpected victory, the Zelnari Council convened in secret to discuss their next move. "We cannot ignore them any longer," High Counselor Varith said. His long, serpentine body coiled beneath him as he addressed the assembly. "The humans have shown that they are more resilient than we anticipated." Another counselor, Chtai, flicked her long talons across the holographic display, highlighting key moments from the battle. "They are unpredictable. Their actions defy logic, and yet they succeed. It is an anomaly." Varitha's golden eyes narrowed. "An anomaly we must either control or eliminate. The Carthuan will not rest until humanity is destroyed. But if the humans continue to grow in strength, they could become a threat to us all." The room was silent as the counselors considered their options. For so long, they had viewed humanity as little more than a curiosity, a species with potential but no real power. Now that perception was changing. "We should not make enemies of them," Chtai said carefully. "They could be valuable allies, should we choose to align ourselves with them." Varitha's tail flicked in agitation. "And if they turn their chaos against us?" Chtai smiled, her sharp teeth glinting in the dim light. "Then we learn from them. We adapt, just as they have." Months passed, and the galaxy watched as humanity rebuilt itself, stronger and more unified than ever before. The Carthuan, reeling from their defeat, regrouped on the fringes of known space, plotting their revenge. But this time they would not face a scattered, broken species. They would face a united humanity, bolstered by newfound allies and a burning desire to never be enslaved again. The final battle took place on the edge of the galactic core, where the Carthuan had gathered the last of their fleets. It was a confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy. Commander Riggs stood on the bridge of the newly constructed flagship Valor, his face hardened with resolve. Beside him, Stone watched the tactical displays with the same fierce determination that had carried them through every challenge. Their fleet, once a ragtag collection of survivors, was now a formidable force. Alien allies, races who had once watched from the sidelines, had joined their cause, inspired by humanity's resilience. "Are you ready?" Stone asked, her voice quiet but steady. Riggs glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "I've been ready for this since the day they attacked Earth." As the fleets clashed in the void, the battle became a chaotic whirlwind of fire and metal. Ships exploded in blinding flashes of light, and the very fabric of space seemed to tremble under the weight of the conflict. But through it all, Riggs remained calm, issuing orders with the precision of a man who had faced the brink of extinction and refused to falter. And then, in the heart of the battle, the Carthuan flagship appeared. A massive, hulking beast of a ship, armed with weapons powerful enough to destroy entire planets. It was the culmination of everything the Carthuan had built, their final attempt to crush humanity once and for all. But Riggs was ready. As the Carthuan flagship charged its primary weapon, preparing to unleash destruction on a scale never before seen, Riggs initiated the final phase of Project Phoenix. In an instant, the human fleet blinked out of existence, reappearing directly behind the Carthuan flagship. "Fire all weapons," Riggs ordered, his voice calm, his gaze locked on the enemy that had haunted his people for so long. The combined firepower of the human and allied fleets tore through the Carthuan flagship, ripping it apart from within. In a matter of moments, the ship that had once been the symbol of the Carthuans' dominance was reduced to nothing but debris. And with that, the war was over. As the last remnants of the Carthuan were scattered across the stars, humanity stood victorious. The galaxy, once dominated by fear and oppression, now looked to humans as a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and the unbreakable will to survive. Commander Aiden Riggs, battered and scarred from the countless battles he had fought, stood at the helm of the Valor, watching the stars with a quiet sense of satisfaction. He had led humanity through its darkest hour and emerged victorious. Stone stepped up beside him, her expression softer than usual. We did it, she said quietly. Riggs nodded, his gaze never leaving the stars. We did. But this is just the beginning. Stone smiled. And what comes next? Riggs turned to her, a small, weary smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Whatever comes next, we'll be ready. And with that, humanity, once on the brink of extinction, took its place among the stars, not as victims, but as leaders, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy had in store.